Welcome, everyone. I'm Todd Sullivan, CEO of Exitwise. We're a marketplace for business owners to source top talent when you want to grow and sell your company. Today, I have a very special guest, Dmitry Dragilev. He's a 4-time exited founder. Now, Dmitry's one of the top experts featured on our exited founder marketplace. And it's not only because he's built and sold companies to Google and SEMrush, which is now Adobe, but he's really mastered the art of hitting these strategic singles and doubles. Maybe you could start out with a little bit of background so people understand where the entrepreneurial journey started.
Sure, yeah. I immigrated here from Russia and became really, really interested in computers. I was 16, 17, 18. I was like building software engineer. My journey led me through a career in software engineering, and then I wanted to leave the industry altogether. I found myself writing flight planning software for the Department of Defense for C-130 planes, and it was just something I didn't really want to continue with a government witness on my back. Reading this Web 2.0 magazine, reading about these kids raising millions of dollars in Silicon Valley, wanted to figure out what that's all about. Jumped in the car, sold everything I had, drove cross country, and just decided I'm going to start doing free internships at startups to figure out how this marketing thing works, how to build startups. And that was sort of the genesis of me jumping into startup land. I met Tim Ferriss and I interviewed him, and I was running these speaker series because I wanted to learn a lot. And so he put me onto this trajectory of sort of 4 hour a week work week. And I really aspired to that. I really bought in, and since then, which was like early 2008, 9 or so, I really tried to steer my way. How can I bring my 10-hour work day into 9, into 8, into 7, and really track how much I work so that I can spend more time with my family and my friends and my community, because I found that that makes me really happy. Some people, that's not the case. So if you're listening to this, you're like, hey, I draw happiness from work and only work, then by all means, you don't have to do this. It's just I draw happiness from chatting with people and building communities and spending time with my family, my
Yep.
loved ones and friends. So
Let me jump in for a second because I think you went from, self-proclaimed kind of computer nerd into somebody that could really be extroverted, meet a lot of people. Like your ability to network, it feels like you started to realize that you could sit down with somebody like Tim Ferriss, right? Which many of us would say, like, that guy's untouchable. He's a celebrity. We'll read his books, but that's the closest we'll get. And you've had that experience multiple times, right? You've been able to get to people that other people can't. Maybe talk a little bit about that and how that leads into the companies that potentially you're building.
the first free internship I had was with a company called Crossloop. This is an alumni at the business school that I was going to at the time. He decided to take me on as a free intern, and he trained me on how to do PR outreach. At the time, we were doing PR outreach to people like Walt Mossberg of Wall Street Journal, and he's like Kara Swisher of All Things D. These are like big tech journalists, early 2007. And it was a big deal for me to see that power that I can compose an email, send it to somebody really high up, and get a response. And then I said, okay, I'm going to start learning from people. I need to learn how to build businesses. The best way is a speaker series. I'm going to build a speaker series. I'm going to email people who are really high up and just ask them to go onto my speaker series. And the reason they'll go on because they want to hire talent. And I'll have the best talent go to my speaker series. And that was sort of the genesis of the whole thing. I emailed Ashton Kutcher. He was a big investor in the startup space at the time. I remember getting the response from him. And I was like, okay, if I can get a response from him, I guessed his email. It took me about a week or so. I got an email back from Kevin Hartz, the founder of Eventbrite, Matt Mullenweg, founder of WordPress, the founders of LinkedIn. I had Julie Zhu, the head designer of Facebook. And so I just trained myself to email these really big name people and get responses. And so my job was really to do PR for the startup, but I ended up sort of figuring out that I can just get to these really, really high level people and ask them a lot of questions and record or have some kind of podcast and have an in-person chat with them and have people show up. And that was really the genesis, I think, for all these sort of products and things. I started thinking that way. I was like, oh, okay, it doesn't take a PR firm or a big event staff to create such a cool event and learn something from somebody who's so high up. I can do it myself. Maybe I could change the way people build product
Yeah.
and I can change that as well. So that kind of gave me the info, to
Look, I
get going.
appreciate the answer. The reason I'm asking the question is I think it really does lead into how you decide what company to start, what products to build, because you are not afraid to reach out to Google and Adobe and say, hey, what are your problems? And since I'd love this to be tactical for the listeners here, could you start with that? Like, how do I decide to build a company? I mean,
Yeah.
knowing now that you've built and sold four, so you've got a playbook.
Well, I
Yeah.
have a live example actually. We can talk about this. I'm doing this right now.
Okay,
So
go for
my
it.
CPA is one of my best friends now, Romeo Razi. He's probably listening to this. The best CPA ever. He was like a auditor at IRS most of his life. Then he became a CPA. So he like when he does your taxes, he like actually used to audit people. So he like knows how the auditors at IRS work. And so me and him talk a lot. And we're chatting the other day, and we're like, okay, there's this like problem because people are afraid to deduct and certain things. Like if I deduct, maybe I get audited. Will I get audited? I don't know. Like, what's my risk of getting audited? I don't know. And I was like, why hasn't anybody built this? Now, like, and I immediately think, all right, if I'm going to build an app or a tool, like, there's a million ideas out there, but I need verification, right? So what do? I look at like who's going to distribute this thing for me. I don't want to be distributing this thing. Like, it's not going to build this thing. I'm going to invest money in it. I want somebody else who's going to be partnered up and there's an audience. So right away, I think QuickBooks. QuickBooks has a marketplace. They have all these extensions in the marketplace. I was like, all right, so I go and research how can I be the number one app in their marketplace
Yep.
right away, and how can I get distribution? So I find like the category for auditing and I see like pretty much nothing there. So I was like, okay, so maybe I can be the number one there. But I'm like, is this really a big problem? Does QuickBooks itself have this feature built into it? So I sign up for QuickBooks, we mess around with it. Then I call my CPA, Romeo. I'm like, Romeo, do you think they have it? And Romeo's CPA, he knows, no, they don't. So we keep like thinking about this feature, like what would make it the best for CPAs, like for other, because CPAs hate dealing with IRS. That's what I learned from Romeo. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and talk to a product person at QuickBooks and ask them, like, hey, I'm gonna like build this thing. Some product people, they're not getting back to me. I'm like, all right, they're building something, but relations, the API development team relations will talk to me because they want new apps, they want new features on their app store. So I hop onto the 1 hour developer hours forum, and there's these sessions that they're in, and I start asking questions from the person leading the thing. I'm like, oh, what is your product strategy? This is what I want to build as an app. How would it do in the app marketplace? Can you put me in touch with a product leader at your firm so I know that I can invest in this? I basically want a very hard like sign off from their end, like, hey, yes, we were thinking about building this. It's not in the product yet,
Yep.
and we would love to have it. If I get that kind of like feedback from the team at QuickBooks, then it's like, okay, I get somebody there that says yes, they were thinking about building it and they want it. Then I can talk to the marketing team there and say, all right, if I build it, how likely is it that you're gonna promote it in the app store? Like what would we need to do? What would we need to have? And that I already have that answer. If I have 20 or 30 people and they're actively using it, then yes, they'll probably promote it. So now if I don't have the product yet, right? The product people haven't said the sign off like, yes, we want it, that we were thinking about building it. They were like, yeah, it's a good idea. So we're still figuring that out. We're still figuring that the marketing is kind of signed off on it. So once I get kind of the sign off from the product they really wanted, the marketing they really want it, then the economics kind of have to make sense. I'm gonna have to look at the pricing, how I'm gonna price it. But all this work is done before I even start building. So by the time I start building, pretty much like have them committed. They're like expecting this thing to go live. And I have a partner who's going to promote this app to their marketplace. There's audience that are built into it. And it's engineered in a way where my job is to write the requirements, talk to the engineers, get the thing built, and then launch it. And then as I launch it, then the app center will sort of work and work with me to promote it. And I've kind of most of my businesses have been built that way, and it's so that I can not involve an entire team, raise funds, get people involved. That is, my team is small. We're about like 4 or 5 people or so. So it's
Let me
designed that way.
let me interrupt you for a second. So what I'm really hearing is that you are doing customer discovery from a couple of different layers, right? It's one thing to go identify the problem, talk to accountants, how many accountants would use this, and then the next step that you're taking is who is the distribution partner to all of these accountants, and do they believe it's a good idea, and would they help create that distribution? Because customer acquisition costs could be, make the whole economics not work. So when you have that partner, now it's like, okay, I've got a distribution partner, my marketing's somewhat understood. I understand the problem. They think it's a good idea. Now I'm going to write the requirements and go build. And I think so many entrepreneurs, we're just tempted to go build something. We're like, oh, I'll just build an MVP and then show it to the customer, but that's never good enough. So I keep going. And ultimately you're building something that the market is not willing to pay for, right? Or pay appropriately for to have a profitable business.
I do have the same itch as most entrepreneurs do, but listen, nowadays you can just Claude AI it for free for a couple hours just to satisfy your own itch. Have something that you want to like play with and show people, but don't go build or invest any money or any real time into doing that. And distribution nowadays is the most important part. Like how do you distribute? It used to be much easier. Now it's the partners you got to line all about that. And I'm thinking one thing that I forgot to say is I'm also thinking who's going to acquire this thing. So that distribution partner, if this thing is really performing well in their app marketplace and it's doing really well, they might swallow it, put it into their internal core set. So as I'm designing this app, I'm thinking of it like, how would it fit into the core set of QuickBooks? Like,
Yep.
where would it go? So I have to be a user of the main app, the QuickBooks app, and then so I have to be really into it. And there's other, like there's Xero, there's just another competitor to QuickBooks, other marketplaces to assess. But
Dmitry, what I like and people should hear is that not only are you an exited founder on our platform to help other people, but we're going to hook you up with an exited founder that already sold to Intuit. So there are 3 exited founders on our Exit Founder Marketplace right now that have sold to Intuit, and one in particular sold exactly the way you are talking about, going into their app store, right, and getting distribution through the App Store, got noticed so much that Intuit said, we need to own this, and bought it. So these playbooks they've already played out, and we have the people that have gone through it. So his name is Rad Mobram. Rad is going to be chatting with you to help you think through, how do I build to get acquired? And so I would encourage people on this call that part of figuring out what to build is, do you want to sell this? Talk to somebody that has already sold to that distribution partner or strategic partner, however you're using them.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be amazing. I usually try to do that. In this case, I just don't know. I talked to, let's see, 5 different app owners on the QuickBooks marketplace so far, but I haven't talked to anybody who's actually sold to Intuit. I used to write for Intuit, so I have contacts and I have like a blog profile on there, but that's a completely different arm there. But yeah, that will give me even more sort of ideas as to how I'm going to position the app, how it's going to work, how I'm going to talk to them as I launch. And like I have a 3-year timeline here, so I want to make sure that I say the right things, I hit the right marks so that they notice me the right way. And so I'll be kind of like looking at myself like, all right, where am I going to go year 1, year 2, and so forth.
That's great, because it segues really nicely into this, how you architect this 3-year journey to exit and getting to 3 hours a day. You touched on the profile that now that you have a relationship with Intuit, what do they really want to build? And I'd love to understand how you think about getting that profile. Is it an economic profile? Is it a user profile? Are you having conversations with Intuit? If I get here, will you buy us? And that allows you to reverse engineer your growth. Talk to me about that 3-year plan that you put together.
So I I have this conversation with a product person and also somebody who's leading business operations. I usually try to establish a connection, and it's really through feedback that I draw the person in. So I might ask you, "Hey, I'm building this new thing. I just want your feedback," right? And then I go incorporate it, and then I come back to you and I say, "Hey, can I incorporated what you said. Take a look. What do you think?" And so we have these like regular discussions and we get closer through this feedback loop. And as we get closer, I start to ask questions. I'm like, all right, well, in terms of business, what are the things you guys are investing in now? And like what features might be coming up in QuickBooks Online? What are you guys focused on? And what are you trying to do? And what are the performing apps that are doing the best? And so what I'll try and assess is there one thing that's happening in the industry that I can kind of grab onto that QuickBooks is kind of missing? And in this case, like I have the CPA crowd and all of them, from what I understand, Romeo telling me, and I'm going to interview even more CPAs, they hate dealing with IRS. They just hate it because they don't know. And so that there's this fear of IRS, right? And then the clients there's fear there. The CPAs are scared as well. And so there's some CPAs that kind of know, like Romeo, like how to do this, but the rest don't. And so what I want to find out is what the audience of QuickBooks, the people their users are saying is like, look, we have this fear, we don't know how to do this. Is QuickBooks trying to figure out a solution for this major need that I see? Are they aware of this major need? Do they need to know a little bit about it? And if they need to be informed and get more information, then I'll propose to the marketing team at QuickBooks, let's do a webinar. Let's bring Romeo on. Let's talk about the need for IRS documentation and information for CPAs on QuickBooks, right? And we do a series of these webinars with the partner.
Yep.
And that way they start to learn about the problem. They start to understand it. And then they say, okay, yes, Dmitry's building this app. It's phenomenal, right? Because Dmitry just brought on this Romeo guy and he's brought on this other guy and this other guy. And we're having these series of webinars for our audience. And now our audience are asking for it. Now we know about this problem. And now Dmitry is building something that we really want. So this is a way to sort of educate the buyer to really get even more excited about what you're building
Yeah.
through a series of like subject matter expert webinars. They take a while to get together. It takes a while, this work.
Yeah, but you've really taken strategic partnership to a totally different level. I know in the businesses that I built, 50% of revenue would come through a strategic partner, but it would generally be if you provide distribution and the transaction, if you help facilitate that, you get a percentage of revenue. So it's very transactional. And you've turned it into education and personal relationship by, elevating that person to teach, and you're teaching them at the same time. So I think that's what I would take away from this, is that you got to go deeper than just a transactional relationship as you build out, these relationships to potentially buy your company down the road.
Yeah, like
I think that's
SEMrush.
genius, right? You're educating your buyer, but you're also educating your consumer. You're kind of tying it all together. Comes back to community, right? That you like to build.
Yeah, I love community. I like talking to people. And it just makes things much more comfortable. Like, if you're selling to somebody who you don't know really well, it's all like, oh my gosh, I got an email from them. Oh my God, they said this in the email. Oh my God, they don't. Like, if you know them for like 3 years, 2 years doing stuff with them, they're like your buddy, your friend, it's okay. Like, you're way more comfortable, both of you, to negotiate a deal that kind of works for both of you. And so if you're just meeting and you're trying to do a deal in 6 months or 8 months and you just met, it's just such an uncomfortable kind of like relationship, like learning about each other. And so it's just a more comfortable way. So I prefer to go deeper right away and just,
Could I interrupt you? So we had a question, I think it's been asked actually multiple times, is the time frame that it takes for you to do discovery, right? You're identifying a problem and then you're doing your product discovery and partner discovery. How much time are you spending doing that? And do you put kind of a time limit? I'm going to do that for 3 months and then move on to the next thing, or commit?
yeah, about three. Sometimes it's even more, like 6 months. It depends if I can get it all done in 3 months. Bigger companies sometimes move slower. SEMrush was different in a way where they're in Boston. We both speak Russian. There's a lot of people that are Russian immigrants there. And so we just connected culturally and we could move a little faster. And with like QuickBooks, for example, I maybe it might be a little slower, maybe four months or so, or 5 months. It just has to feel really, really good. Like I have solid people that I can work with. It might be that I do a few webinars up front with them even
Mhm.
about these topics to learn to get to know them and get a feel for the company and a feel for how open they are as they open up and you can kind of chat. But I do enjoy the process because then when I'm building, I feel very confident. I feel like I know what is going to happen when I'm finished with the product. Otherwise, if you flip it, it's like, okay, I built it. I got to raise money and market this thing. And we got to get customers. Oh my God, we got to hire a team. And it's like, I don't even know if you need to do most of that stuff if you figure it out, sort of all these little pieces. So I do it in a different way. I also don't like to work as a full day. So
Right, right. I was going to point that out, that you're trying to work 3 hours a day. So maybe the people in the audience, we can compress that for us that are trying to build businesses faster, but you're at the whim of this partner, right? You're saying that they can move slower. So if you put 3 or 4 months on that, then, how much time do you put on the actual build of the product? And that's obviously a very general question.
It's fast. I mean, with my team, we can build it couple months. Like now with some of the AI stuff, even a month to build like an MVP. The way I build is kind of, all of us have that itch to build something. So with that QuickBooks thing, the day we talked with Romeo, I sat down with Claude, had a conversation, and had like an MVP that I sent him. Of course, it wasn't like the right thing, but it was already something you can click around with and mess around with and talk about. So I'm still like messing around with stuff. I'm just not fully building a product. So during those 4 months that I'm doing discovery, I'm still just messing around with Claude, just putting up, okay, here's a prototype. What do you think of that? What is a prototype? What do you think of that? And because as a founder, and a builder, you want that satisfaction of building something. And so I am doing that. I'm just not investing in developer hours, design hours until we've got those things ironed out.
Let's say, you built that product, you've got 2 or 3 months on the build. Now you're going to launch something, maybe even 6 months if we give ourselves some time here. And now you're going to launch that product with this partner. At what point are you scaling down to 3 hours a day? And then talk about that last component. How are you architecting it so the business really doesn't need you on a day-to-day basis?
So the biggest time sucks for most people, from what I found, is email and customer service, sales, and marketing. These are like the main things. And so what I try and do is figure out a process where the partner or somebody who is I hire, like a assistant or somebody like that, is responsible for most of these functions, or they're eliminated. So in most of the businesses, like we would have the partner responsible for billing, marketing, and sales of the app. And
Mhm.
so when the app is launched with the partner, it's on their app marketplace, and the app marketplace is serviced by the app marketplace itself. If there's specific technical issues, you are responsible for it. So we set up a Slack channel, but the main contact with the customer usually is by the app marketplace. All the
Interesting.
complaints go to the app marketplace. These are different. Everything is designed differently, so you might not be in the industry where there is such a marketplace.
Yep.
And in that case, you will need to hire a agency that takes care of that function for you. I've just been lucky to make sure that there is a marketplace that takes care of distribution, customer service, and sort of any questions. And if they have questions, they can ask me. I did run a business once where I had a full-on agency, and they were sort of running the whole customer interaction thing. So once every 3 days they would message me and I would respond to all the questions. And so then I also asked them, please condense everything, all the questions all at once. And so I would once every 3 days would answer them. If something urgent comes up, they could also Slack me, but I kind of had rules on what kind of things they can put into Slack and what they can't, so that we are not bombarded with Slack messages. I ask for one Slack message a day from them at most. Emails also, I use a 37 Signals product called hey.com. And so that filters out a lot of emails. So I only see the emails that I want to see in my inbox. It's called important box. And so I don't do, so I don't have email or anything on my phone.
Yep.
My phone is black and white. I don't have social media or anything like that on there. So I'm literally disconnected if I come off, that I shut this laptop off. I'm not online. Generally, if people have that expectation that, hey, they can reach me, but they can reach me once every 3 days on Slack. They have to compile all the messages all at once. It works that way. If you're responding to people all the time because you're excited, that's the expectation you set, and then they'll ping you all the time like that.
Yep.
And so it's just like a mindset. I feel like it takes a lot of discipline and it's not for everybody. But I make sure that these functions are outsourced so that it works that way.
I think just having known you, one of the important things to convey is, you started out at 10, 12 hours a week and then you eased down, right, over time to get to this point. And that's a lifestyle choice. But I'm interested is when you're architecting the sale, right? So you've sold to Google, you sold to SEMrush, which is Adobe now, and you've sold to them multiple times. You made the comment that, Google wants the team, right? They would want you as opposed to somebody else that's going to say, you know what, Dmitry, we really understand the product. We know how to run it. We don't need you. Can you talk about the profile of the company that you are building so it's easily acquired and how you're involved in that?
Yeah, so just a side note, it was a company where I was employed. I decided to leave when Google was acquiring us because I
Got it.
did not want to join Google. And so there was a big sort of like, what are you doing, Dimitri? Because we're all going in and like we're all getting like this package and stuff, and you're just going the other way. And I was like, right, but you're all getting a job at Google. Like, I don't want a job at Google. I want to I had this trajectory to get to 3 hours a week. And they're like, what? We just like killed it with the startup. We just like took 2 years to get to this point. And I was like, I don't want that. So it was like a weird situation where the team left and got acquired and Dimitri quit. And I did get some money out of it, but there's like a weird situation there. And then
Okay.
from then on, all my acquisitions were, designed in a way where if after the acquisition they want me to involve, it has to be 20 hours a week, 10 hours a week on paper, but in reality, 2, 3, 4 hours a week. And it can be, whatever it can be, it's a contract. It's a contract, some type of a contract. If it's 20 hours, okay, fine, 20 hours. But if it's 10 hours, it's 10 hours a week. But make sure it's a contract where I'm a contractor and I'm helping out partially, and I can do whatever I want. I don't have to have a job. But in terms of like the profile of the company, I think the easiest thing you can do is have an asset sale, right? Most people do not want a stock sale. Like, you can go and create a C Corp and pray for your QSBS deduction and really push it for the stock sale. But you want to make it easy for everybody. You want to make it easy on yourself, and you want it easy on the buyer. And so that's one thing. Just format it as for me, always an asset sale, and I already figure in what the tax will be on that sale.
Yep.
The other thing is like, just all the technologies you are using, all the code, make sure it's, clean, verified. Like, it's very, very by the book of all the things that a buyer would be checking, and your team, where they located, you have proper agreements set with them so that they have signed off all that stuff, that, IP and all that stuff that they create for you, because when the buyer's buying, these things slow things down. Anybody who's ever worked for you or contracted. The profile, I think these are probably some of the major things to button up before you think about selling as you're building your company. The profile of it, you're growing. You're selling at the highest moment that you think you have up until now. The jumps are huge. You're thinking, gosh, will it sustain it in the next like 3, 4, 5 months? I don't know. there was a fallback, it went back up. And maybe at that point you say, okay, well, it's a personal thing, it's a personal decision, I think, for everybody individually. But I'm a lifestyle guy. I'm not here to ride it out for 20 years or 15 years to 150 million a year kind of thing. Another friend is on this call is Chris Brisson, and we were at this thing called Sales Message. Oh, Sales, that's his company, but SaaS Academy is the Dan Martell's sort of, it's a program. Everybody kind of raises their hand and says what their MRR is. And so people are kind of not judged, but graded on how well you grew your MRR.
Yep.
It always rubbed me the wrong way. I felt so uncomfortable in these meetings, and I just felt kind of disgusted walking out of these rooms. And Chris would be like, "What's wrong, buddy? Like, what? You kind of seem down, Like, what? Like, everybody's pumped up. Like, it's a broy culture. Like, everybody's growing. Like, I got like 200 MRR, 300 MRR. Like, and I'm just like gross, like disgusted. Like, what the fuck?" And I'm like, "Well, how many times, like, hours a day did you spend with your wife? Like, did you have dinner? Did you guys go out? Like, how many hours did you spend with your kids? Did you spend just an hour doing homework, picking them up from school? Was it 4 or 5 hours? And daily, how much do you spend with them? How much do you spend with your community at like in your town, your city? How much do you spend working out?" And it's like, these are the levelers that I would look at, the grades, and these guys were all about this MRR, making money. And I was just like, US is all making money. Europe is about like time that you have and how you spend it. And I was like, I'm kind of like around time. Like, I love the quality of time. And so it always rubbed me the wrong way. Is like, "Oh, I'll just write it out and make the most money." I'm like, "Look, everybody has their own goal." I'm not saying, but for me, 3 years, it's riding high, sell it, take a percentage of it, and say, "All right, I'll consult you guys, pay me something. And if this thing keeps growing, give me a percentage of the growth, and then move on and do something else." That's what I love doing.
I want to stay respectful of everybody's time here. We think a lot alike in that I see the entrepreneurial journey as getting many at-bats. And so that is what you're doing, is giving yourself a lot of at-bats. I think what I'm really learning is that on the customer discovery side, you're really doing that through distribution partners and potential acquirers and creating that relationship. So that relationship just grows over a 3-year period. So when you're deciding when to build, whether you're having an up or a down, you're in constant communication. And that is just a far easier conversation to have with somebody and a team that you already have a relationship with. So I'm sure there's multiple moments that you could pull the trigger and start, having that negotiation. I really appreciate all the time that you've given us. I hope people have taken something from this. Certainly, you're making a conscious decision to work fewer hours, and certainly many of us can appreciate that and probably aspire to that. But really, really hard. It takes a lot of discipline. But the proof is there. You've built and sold a lot of companies, and wish you the best of luck on this one, man.
Yeah, thank you. Most people don't get me, really, man. I fear, like, people nod their head, but then they're like, "That was just weird." Like, that guy's weird. Like, I'm just gonna go do my own thing.
I'm going to just bring it back to this idea that even you, right, who can help people grow their business. I mean, you got this SEO PR background that's unbelievable. When it comes to M&A, a different path. You're playing inside baseball when you're going to sell a company. What I'm super excited about is a different one of our exited founders that is sold to QuickBooks or Intuit is going to be so helpful to you, even as you grow this over the next couple of years. So I just encourage everybody, check out our Exited Founder Marketplace. If you think Dmitry is somebody that could be helpful to you as you're thinking about selling your company, jump on it quick. Like, book a call, because Dmitry only gives a certain amount of time and can only help a certain number of people this year. If he's not the right fit for you, find somebody else. Look them up based on the acquirers. There's lots of different ways to sort for them to find the right person for you, but you're playing inside baseball when you're thinking about growing and selling your business. So we'll drop a lot of links in the chat here. I think Stephanie already has. I appreciate everybody joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Dmitry.
All right. Thanks for having me.